Let me make sure I get that. And that topic is called collaboration. Um, and that is essential to when we talk about the social web, is collaboration. So people working together and create something new. And to do that and to understand the mechanics and the different dynamics that go on behind groups and behind these group efforts and collaboration, we need to learn a little bit about groups, how they work from a sociological and also maybe psychological point of view. And today, the little game we're playing is mostly about learning a little bit about this group thing. It's important for you because whenever you do any kind of teamwork, you'll go through a set of stages. These groups develop. So when you do your group projects, you'll find when you work in teams, there's different team members, and different team members behave differently. And you have different teams, or you change 2 or 3 members in the teams, you have to start all over again with this team forming nonsense. But let's slowly get started, and let's talk about different things we need to know about. The first thing is the group sizes. So usually we talk about small groups, and there's 2 kinds of small groups. The primary ones, which are 5 or less individuals. So they are not really groups. And in that case, you don't have group dynamic. So, well, let's talk about the simplest group. The simplest group is just, one person. Now, that's easy, right? There is nobody to fight with. Yeah, you're all by yourself. That's just fine. Those groups, perfect. The next more complicated group is 2 guys. Yeah? So if you have 2 guys, they either like each other or they don't. But usually after a while they get along with each other. Yeah? So those are also pretty easy groups. A little more complicated it gets when you have 3 guys, so a group of 3 people. It turns out that usually there they tend to form a group of 2 plus 1. That's usually what groups of 3 do. Yeah? I've got 2 guys, they understand each other quite well, and the third guy, he either comes along or, gets left alone. So that's a group of 3. Now if you have a group of 4, then usually what you have 2 groups of 2. So you got these 2 guys pairing up and these 2 guys pairing up. And then they either, get along and they work okay, or they don't work so well. So as soon as you get to now usually people say 5 is still in that area. So if you have a 5th person, usually that kind of goes in there, but you see already it gets more complicated with 5 people. Yeah? But usually once there's groups of 5 are still okay. So if I want a team and I want a team to work effectively, I want to make sure that I have 5 or less team members. Yeah? Ideally 4 team members. If you have anything more than 5, I'm in trouble. Yeah? And you will learn in a moment why 5 is a problem, because 5 is still okay. But if you have 6 or more, you're definitely in a problem. And what we have here is called these secondary groups, and that's from 6 to 20 individuals. And if you have groups of that size, so 7 or 8, a whole different set of group dynamics starts. And we'll learn about a little of that in just a moment. If you have groups larger than 20, then we're off somewhere completely different, and we don't want to know about these larger groups. Now you get these mass phenomena and other kinds of things. Yeah. From our point of view, the nice thing about the small groups of 5 or less is that they perform very fast and very effectively and very good. Yeah, so that's nice. Now the problem is some things you need more people to work on. There's some very large projects like building the pyramids. Yeah, 5 people cannot build the pyramids. It just doesn't work. Even if you have all kinds of machines, it doesn't work. You need more than 5 people. So very often we have efforts where we need more than 5 people. So we need to learn about things that happen when we have larger groups. So let's try that. And let's talk about these stages of group development. And this is a theory that's quite accepted. And if you look in yourself, and if you remember maybe groups that you have been in, or in the future when we do group forming, maybe here or in other classes, you will see that there's these what we call 4 formats, 4 stages. And let me, oops, it doesn't work. I need to think. It's called the forming stage, The storming, norming, and performing. So there's 4 stages here. The forming stage is when the group forms. Yeah, people get together, and I told you, you are one group. You have to work together, and this is what you're supposed to do. This is the forming group. The storming is when the people start fighting, figuring out who is the boss, figuring out who does what, who knows what. And that's kind of the storming phase. Sometimes this phase can take a very long time. Yeah. So if you got 2 guys, that want to be the bosses, then you have a problem. That it takes a long time. Then there is the norming phase, where people have realized, okay, you're this guy, you're that guy, you do that, and the order within the group have been established. And the norming phase is then basically when we are ready to go and start working, do something. Yeah? And then finally, the performing stage, that's where you actually want to be. That's where work happens. Yeah? The performing stage, that's where you want to go. Now, these stages are more clearly defined, and you're going to look at the references and be able to read that a little bit more clearly. It's first proposed by Bruce Tuckman in 1965, so it has been around for quite some time. But this is a very popular model to explain how groups, the small groups from 6, 7 to about 20, how they work, how they perform. Has anybody heard about storming, norming, performing? You ever heard? Yeah. Have you experienced it in your own work, or? Ja, welches Fach? Projektmanagement, genau, da passt es auch super rein. Project Management, perfect, yeah. It's a perfect example for that. Yeah, let me make sure that you're not starving, because I see some of you have a little problem with sugar, or maybe it's just boring, I can't tell the difference. The question is, whenever you lead a team or when you're dealing with a team, you need to know in which stage is that team so you can help the team. So if the team happens to be in the storming phase, you need to know that. If the team is in the norming phase, also you need to know that. Ideally, you get the teams as quickly as possible into performing mode, right? And there is different ways on how you can tell in which mode it is. And this is if you look at the group members. Now, every group has different members, and it allows for different members at certain times. Now, some people can have 2 of these things, and actually I didn't translate that in English because I just didn't know how to translate that, because you would lose a lot of the subtle meaning behind these words, so please bear with me. So we got the positive member, ja, der positiv eingestellte Teilnehmer. Das ist alles toll, ja. Das sind typischerweise die Amis, ja. Und es passt immer alles. Dann der Redselige, das ist derjenige, der halt die ganze Zeit quasselt, ja, über allen möglichen Unsinn. Es ist der Dickfällige, das ist derjenige, der alles aushält, den kann man öfter mal auch hernehmen. Dann der Streitsüchtige, dann ist man ein bisschen vorsichtig mit dem Streitsüchtigen, der versucht immer Ärger zu machen. Es gibt den Alleswisser, Ablehnende, die sind die Gegenteil von unseren Amerikanern, richtig? Die sagen immer, ne, das funktioniert nie, oder muss das sein und so weiter. Dann haben wir der Erhabene, der weiß immer alles, der kann alles besser. Dann gibt es den Ausfragenden, das sind die Leute, die dann gerne Informationen von Leuten haben wollen, ja, wie viele Kinder haben sie und was macht ihre Freundin und so. Ja. Der Vielredner, was der Unterschied zwischen dem Redseligen und dem Vielredner ist, kann ich Ihnen nicht genau sagen, müssen wir mal nachschauen. Dann gibt es den Blocker, den Zurückhaltenden und den Clown. Ja. Das sind also so typische Rollen, die in einem Team passieren können. And you can tell, depending on what members a team allows for, in what stage it is. If the team is in the storming phase, then you will never see a clown. So if somebody wants to play the clown and you're still in the storming phase, the other guys in the team will say, be quiet, not now, yeah? Bad time. Yeah? And so by seeing which one of these guys are allowed within the team, you can measure actually and determine in which of these 4 stages your team is in. So if it's in the performing stage, yeah, if everything is fine, everything runs smoothly, you don't have a problem with allowing a clown. Yeah? The clown, now it's fun, yeah, we're doing good work, and so the clown is a good member of the team, you know, making this whole work fun. And so this is an interesting process that, you know, I hadn't seen before. I just saw this about a year ago, that by looking at the team and seeing what kind of members they allow, you can tell in what of the stages these teams are. So I thought that was quite interesting. Alrighty. There's a completely different model, and let me talk about that one. It's by Raoul Schindler, and this is, so to say, there's no black and white, you know. There's lots of different models, and some models work in that case and others in another. In this scenario, we have different people. We have alphas, we have gammas, we have betas, we have omegas. So we have 4 kinds of people. And all these people have one goal. We call the goal as G. So the goal could be, we want to climb a mountain. Yeah? That could be a possible goal. And there's some people who really want to climb the mountain. There'll be somebody who knows a lot about climbing mountains. There'll be somebody who doesn't want to climb a mountain, right? And all these are represented here by different people. And so we have a common goal, and the team as a whole, the team consists of different members, and they all want this goal. And the normal people, that's the gammas. Huh? The gammas, that's most of us, right? The gammas are down here, lots of gammas, and they're basically the poor guys who have to follow somebody else, right? So here it says the gammas are the team members that support the goal. So those are the guys who also want to go up the mountain. And interesting is that you may not believe that, but the gammas are actually the decision makers. Yeah? So these are all the gammas down here. Then we have one guy who is the alpha. Usually it's only one guy. So the alpha is has special capabilities or whatever. And it is the gammas who decide who is the alpha. Yeah? So the alpha usually is the one who really wants to climb that mountain, really in favor of this goal, and the gammas decide, hey, this guy will be helping us and will be good for us, and this is the leader. So we got this alpha guy. Then we got the omega, and I'm going to write down the omega like this. And the omega is usually one guy who is not interested in that thing, doesn't want to climb the mountain, thinks this is a bad idea, and is actually against the whole process. So this is basically the opposing person. And then we may have, not necessarily always, we have the betas, and the betas are our experts. So betas are people who really know how to climb mountains. You know, they know how to do this with the ich weiß nicht, wie das funktioniert. You know what I mean. I mean, they are the specialists. They know how to climb mountains. They know which way to go. They have all the details. Sometimes you don't have betas. You don't always have experts, but the betas are the experts. Yeah. So in case you have them, they basically support the ideas and help them. So now you may think that, okay, no matter what the goal is, you think the alpha is always the alpha and the omega is always the omega, but that is not so. It turns out that when we have a new goal, when the goal changes, so this one, we climbed up the mountain, so that's done. So now we want to do something else, like, you know, hunting deer, or I don't know. So we got a second goal, a new goal. If that goal changes, what can happen quite often is that the alpha becomes the omega, and the omega becomes the new alpha. Yeah? Or sometimes is that one of the gammas becomes an alpha. Yeah? So there's group dynamics, and it very strongly depends on what kind of goal the group has. Yeah? And the funny thing is that this is the observation of Raoul Schindler, is that it seems every team, every group has an alpha, and every group has an omega. It may not necessarily have the betas. The gammas, sure, they're always there, but that's his observation. Yeah? And if you look at yourself, and if you look at teams that you have been in, or different challenges that you have been facing, or if you look in history of different things happening on a larger scale, you kind of can identify that this is a model that quite often, it hits the core of what's going on in terms of the psychology. And so, if nothing else, it would be nice if in the future, if you're part of some teams or something and you make some observations, that you look back and say, oh, I see, this guy's a gamma, this guy's a gamma, this guy, oh, you're a beta. Yeah, and that you can start identifying people by looking in teams and then understand something about the team dynamics. Yeah. So this is something I find is very, very interesting. Oops, that is the wrong place. Zuck, zuck. Yeah. Good. I think that was all I wanted to tell you. And we are ready for team building. And it's called the Marshmallow Challenge. Alrighty. So I'm going to stop this because we're going to do the marshmallow.